Today on Homeworthy, we're taking you to Hudson, New York for a look inside interior designer Erik Gensler's breathtaking home. Erik's home is the epitome of indoor-outdoor living, with gorgeous floor-to-ceiling windows that emphasize the incredible mountain view. And inside is cool and sleek with mid-century modern decor and artwork. Erik brings us out to his gardens and greenhouse before making a floral arrangement with freshly picked flowers from the cutting garden. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Erik Gensler. Welcome to my home in the Hudson Valley. Come on in. Hello, I'm Erik Gensler. I'm an interior designer based in New York City, and today we're in my home outside of Hudson, New York. My husband and I built this house about 7 years ago. It was a field that was part of a big farm. We came here and a lot of the land was cleared. We knew exactly where we were able to put the house. It allows this amazing view and really uninterrupted, and it allows it to feel like you're really just living in nature and seeing the mountains. And it's an amazing place because it's super, super quiet. When we first came up here, my husband and I, in our late 20s, we stayed with friends who actually grew up in this area and had a weekend house, and spent a lot of time up here with them. And we knew we wanted to have a place up here, and we started looking for houses, and all the houses we're seeing were on loud roads. And we came up here for many, many weekends and looked at houses, and none of them felt quite right. And then my husband was like, he's obsessed with looking at real estate listings, and he's really, really good at it. In fact, all of our friends, when they're looking for places, will send him listings, and he'll, within like 30 seconds, he'll be like, there's no natural light, the linoleum floor is going to be torn out, the roof looks old. Like, he's just brilliant at it. And so you can imagine how fun looking at a house was, because he would see all the things. And then he saw this amazing piece of land, and we knew nothing about building houses. I mean, we are like serial movers, and I've always loved moving and renovating houses, and we've moved many, many times and done many projects. And here we just saw this land, and we were with a broker who was like, you absolutely have to just take this land because the view is so special. And we were in our 30s at that point and very impatient. So we looked into prefab houses, which was very much a West Coast thing 10 years ago, but we did find a company called Lindell that makes prefab houses, and they had just done a partnership with a number of architects as part of the Lindell Architect Collaborative, and they were really, really cool houses. And they gave the Lindell Toolkit, which is essentially all the wood, all the doors, and all the windows, to a set of architects, and said, use Lindell to design a house that you've built before, or a concept house. And we saw this house, which is the architect, actually, she and her twin sister are both architects, and they built a similar version of this house, non-Lindell, in California. And I mean, let's first talk about building a California style house in the Hudson Valley in the freezing winter. So city at move number one. There are many, let's call them, we call ourselves cityots because we make so many dumb mistakes, and that's how we learn. We've gotten better. But yeah, so this is a California style house. It's very mid-century modern, I would say, which is really about one room living, and then on either side of the house there are the primary suite side, and then over there is which you'll see later, is the guest rooms, which is actually really nice to have that separation and the privacy, and then the really big open concept living, and these are big lift and slide doors. The whole house, like the external pieces of the house, the windows, the doors, all of the wood arrived on like 2 trucks, and they unloaded it. And so my point is that we were able to build this house in under a year because we used Lindell. And we used an architect. We ended up hiring the architect, Leslie Dowling, who is wonderful. And if you look at her portfolio of houses, they're very similar to this, and she does it really well. We really focused with Leslie on customizing the kitchens and baths, which you'll see later, and the interior of the space. So at that point, I was not in interior design. I owned a digital marketing agency called Capacity Interactive that worked with arts and cultural organizations. And so I was building this house while running my company, which was a whole other job. It was very fun. But now, as an interior designer, which I'm about 2 years into my interior design career, and my whole life has sort of been an amateur interior designer, but there's a lot of choices of this house that, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have made. Although it's great because it's ours, and it's a very, very special place. So the first space I want to show you is our living room, and this has evolved a lot over time. The nice thing about working with our architect is she helped us create a furniture plan, so we knew the shape of the living room. But over time, as I learned more about interior design, a lot of the pieces have evolved, and I really love mixing periods, mixing textures, mixing shapes, mixing time periods. And so because the house is mid-century pieces look really great, like these lamps from the 1950s, like 1950s lighting, and you can see like there's another 1950s lamp over here, like got this on Etsy. There's a lot of great Etsy antique dealers. Actually, this piece right here is Edward Wormley, who was a mid-century American designer. For Dunhill, this is a magazine rack, and you'd see this in office spaces. I love it as a side table because it's really great to store magazines, and it's just such a, I feel like it fits the space of the house, but it's surprising. It's not the side table you'd find at Crate and Barrel. And when I was first doing interior designing the space, I didn't have the resources or really think or know how to layer antiques. And so a lot of the sofa is RH, and if you ask interior designers, they're very antsy about RH because it's all beige, it's all, it's created this concept you can go in a store and create a whole house, which is, I think, a nightmare for most interior designers because it just all looks the same. And I think what's interesting is mixing periods and making it your own and making it a little different. So like these chairs were made, they're sort of based upon the style of a Brentwood chair, which is a really famous French cafe chair, and it's actually bent wood in 2 different species of wood by an artist in Spain. And I picked the leather. It took a really long time to get these made and built, but I think they're so cool because they, the way you see through them, they're a different shape than everything else in the space. And so much about interior design I've learned is around comfort. And so when you're having people over, a sectional is not really conducive to comfort. And so, you have cheese in the center and like everyone's sitting back here. So then you have to like scoot your way up, get your food. And then having a lot of chairs that can easily move and that are smaller and shaped to the human body rather than shaped to the space of the room, I think makes a more functional space. So over time, as I've learned about design, this has really evolved. And another great item there's so many things in here. This is this really cool Italian mid-century side table that I think is really beautiful. but like really mixing like this. And a lot of the materials are local, which I'll show you in a bit. So like mixing mid-century and local items has something that I think makes a lot of sense. And I also think good homes and spaces start with the space where you are. And so the more you can incorporate the fact that we are in the Hudson Valley, the fact that this is very much indoor outdoor living, it makes sense and it makes the interior better. So as I got into interiors, I really got into upholstery and fabrics and making something unique using lots of trim and tape. And so you take this, actually I did this with a glue gun. Please don't zoom in too closely. I'm just kidding. But oftentimes if I'm doing another project, I would use a professional, but just to learn, and this has very much been my laboratory for design, but I think these turned out pretty decent. This is me and a glue gun with some wide tapes here and just adding color. Because when I started, it was really about like, everything was gray and navy blue, because I love gray and navy blue. But I think like having more of a mix is more interesting. And then really using the color of these paintings as the guide for this room. You see how the pillows really coordinate with they're not paintings, they're prints. It's the founder of the op art movement in the 80s, Julian, and I'm gonna really mess up his last name, Stasnik, perhaps. But these are prints of his, and we got them the week he died, which was really meaningful to the person who sold them to us. But I think the scale of them is really nice, the color of them is really nice. And I think every room, it's great to have one thing that guides the decor, and really looking to the colors in these prints, you can see adds and leads the decor. So over here, we have a very mid-century modern fireplace. This is local. It's a bluestone that is local. I wanted the stone to be not from too far away, and you'll see the bluestone throughout the property. And then this is one of my favorite pieces. It's a sealed chair. This is really beautiful, and I love it in cognac leather. You also sometimes see it in black. Just really comfy to sit by the fire and have coffee and see the view. And then again, paired here with one of these mid-century lamps from the 50s, popping the orange. And then this beautiful piece of art is an artist out of the UK, Luke Edward Hall, who I have another work of his here. And then our apartment in New York City, we have one of his pieces. I think he just beautiful just a beautiful drawing, and I love the color here. This light won't stop shaking. Okay, and all my interior design magazines everywhere. I had to really organize them for this tour. So let's go over here and look from this angle, and you can see this beautiful credenza that's locally made by a furniture maker called Fern. They were based they're still in the Hudson Valley. They used to have a storefront on Warren Street, but now they closed that storefront, but they still make this beautiful furniture, and I have a coffee table as well, but I love this. And this is a Stone and Sawyer lamp, which is also made in the Hudson Valley. And I love trimming lampshades. So this was just a plain linen lampshade, and just found this $2 ribbon that I glue gunned on it. So just finding the colors, it just adds adds another layer of something interesting. So I like when you're looking every part of a room, you discover something, or you can discover something. And then getting the height of the lamp. I'm cheating with books, but I do that a lot. So we'll go from the living room to the dining room, which is the same space, but really thinking about this main area, because it is large and open, creating zones that make sense. And I think there's 3 main zones and 2 sort of mini zones here. So like the fireplace is maybe 1 zone, thinking of a focal place. And here is the dining room, which is a really big table. The scale of it I really like. These chairs, I worked on tape on one just to make it a little more interesting. I'm thinking of doing the other 2 as well. I love setting tables, and I love making flowers for a table, but I think it's important for a dining room that you can see over and see the person across the table. So these are actually chamomile, and they smell like chamomile, and you can dry them and make tea. These lights are also local from the Hudson Valley. It's a company called Niche Modern, and they blow glass in Beacon, and the colors are really, really beautiful. The shapes are really beautiful. It was very hard to choose. They can either come, on a canopy like this, or they can go right into the wall. There's another grouping of them in the kitchen that sort of relate but aren't the same. But I feel it's very sort of almost 50s with the globe and the hand-blown glass. I think handmade materials are so different, and that's again another thing in learning about interior design is I really try to focus on getting handmade materials and supporting craftspeople if you can, because it just not only you're supporting people who are working with their hands, but you feel the difference. And like when we look here, like this glass is hand blown and you see the flaws in it, but that's why I think it's beautiful. These these are from Heath Ceramics in San Francisco. We used to live in San Francisco, and I love everything from Heath Ceramics. They make beautiful tile, they make beautiful plates and homeware, and you see the hand in that, and I think it's quite beautiful. I love using candles. The more candles, if we were going to have dinner here, there would probably be a small candle around each plate and at least 4 candlesticks. And the taller the candlesticks, the better. Like, what do they say, Dolly? The higher the hair, the closer to God. You want the candles to reach as high as possible without causing a fire. So I love burning candles. I think it just makes for a beautiful dinner party. And in this room there are a ton of light sources. I don't love overhead light. I think you can use it functionally, but I think if you think about lighting, it's sort of like you want it to mimic the outside. So at night, you don't want really bright overhead lights. You want it to feel like you're lighting candles. So I do put lots of candles around, which I took out because it can look cluttered. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just 5 lamps over here, plus candles, plus many candles, and maybe really dim overhead lighting, because I think in the fireplace during the season, I think like low flickering candles really make for an intimate, lovely atmosphere. And then I was just going to say the final area in here is just a place to sit and admire the view and have a cup of coffee. So that's another sort of mini zone, read a book. We'll just get a glimpse of the outside, but later in the tour. Another thing we didn't know when we were building this house is the sun sets over the mountains there, which is absolutely beautiful, but it is a furnace on this side of the house. And so all of the initial seating was on the furnace side of the house. And so that's why I built the greenhouse garden, which is shadier. And at some point we'll probably do some sort of seating arrangement on that side of the house so we can be outside and enjoy the outside without it being really hot. The other thing I didn't know is with the bugs, it would have been great to have some sort of screened in area. So advice for anyone building a house, talk to people older than you and see what, how they think about entertaining or what they would want, or talk to people in the area. My friend did say 2 things he reminded me the other day that I did not listen to. He said, you want a screened in porch and you want a garage. We do not have a screened in porch, which I wish we did. And we have a carport, which again, California house in upstate New York. I was like, oh, a carport, it'll be fine. Well, when there's snow coming up the side and you're freezing cold out there, it would have been really nice to have a garage. So I don't want to keep you any longer. Let's go outside and see the outdoor space and the gardens. So this is actually a garden path that is hiding a French drain. This was a muddy mess because this giant hill. So we made the building path here, and tons of water just comes down this hill here. And we just added this, there's like drainage under here, but it's actually a great path as well. And then we figured out the right trees for here. So like weeping willows like water and they drink all the water. This was a crabapple tree that we were like, we want a crabapple tree, city it move. And we had 3 crabapples, 2 of them died because they were drowning. But amazing, when we added the weeping willows and this maple that likes to drink water, the crabapple started to thrive. So thinking about just the ecosystem was really helpful, and now the trees are actually doing quite well. And they got that amazing urn over there. That's a 19th century French urn. So the house being very mid-century modern, and as I've grown in my career as an interior designer and learning about different periods, really the garden is where I've incorporated a lot of much older items, so that are much older than mid-century and more international, less American, and we'll see that as we walk through. So here, like these columns are British from the, I think, 1820s. I think they're so beautiful. And I have to say, in the garden, this garden started as a PowerPoint. I started to love arranging flowers, and I will see later there's vegetable beds, and I used to raise vegetables. And this, when we first built this house, we went with a really simple grass, like mid-century garden. We didn't have a lot of trees. We didn't have budget for trees. We didn't have budget for much gardening. And this garden started much smaller, and I read Martha Stewart and Kevin Sharkey's book and was like, okay, if you want a cutting garden, these are the perennials you want to start with. And so I had my PowerPoint of perennials. I met my neighbor had a gardener, Linda Gibson of Gibson. So she's a local gardener who I love. We now like text all the time, and this garden would not happen without her. And we have such an amazing partnership. And working together, but a lot of the structure and the beauty and this garden is definitely a team effort, and a ton of credit to Linda and her team of people. So this side is really, we've learned what works here and what doesn't, like I was saying about the willows. Also, these are all willows that are hiding the deer fence. So you can't have a garden in the Hudson Valley because of deer. So these, and it takes years for these willows to grow, but they're Nijiki willows, they're Japanese willows. I think they're really beautiful. They change colors in the seasons. And so this is, on this side is plants that like water, hydrangea, the key word hydro. They love water. So these are new, but they'll really grow. And this garden, what's amazing about it is all year, like from the time the crocuses come up till the final frost, different things are coming in and out. So there's always something to cut. And it looks beautiful as it is, but there's really, like, I'm constantly cutting from it. I have my snippers here, and just thinking about how to plant things that are really good for cutting and look really good as a garden. So as we go through, you see the tulips and daffodils. Linda and I made a mistake this year where I thought I was buying the tulips and daffodils and she thought she was. And we each bought like 1,000. And so there were like an outrageous amount of tulips and daffodils. The daffodils come back every year. The tulips don't always come back. I mean, I kind of like Martha Stewart. I think you see this picture in her book of, she has like 10,000 daffodils. So I'm far away from that. So mirroring the columns here are these juniper. So you have the structure of the garden. Linda talks about that a lot. And you look at like the flow and the low juniper here. These lilies, look at this gorgeous, this just came up. These yellow lilies. And the rabbits have been reproducing like bunny rabbits this year. I'm keeping it G-rated for Homeworthy. But the rabbits have been out of control. So we usually have these gorgeous hollyhocks everywhere, but they've been rabbit food. And let's see, these irises are so pretty. These hydrangeas are starting. This pink is called bee balm. You see, it attracts bees. I love having pollinators here because they pollinate everything. They bring the bees to the yard. So it just like spreads, and really it's something that does quite well here. This catmint does really well. And it's really great for cutting. The lilies today are just out. Every day there's something different. Butterflies are here. This is my one Japanese maple that this is its first year doing quite well. It often gets frost damage, but it's thriving this year. In fact, it's getting almost too big. And these are climbing geranium, which I just love because they're really low and they spread to the ground and they're sort of wild. They're wild looking, quite beautiful. And so the path continues. Over here, these are all lilacs. And so there's this picture that Kevin Sharkey, who worked for Martha, has in this Martha Stewart book of this arrangement where he has like 5 different shades of lilac from white to dark purple. And a couple of years ago, my mom tragically passed away, and her favorite plant was lilac. And so I remember when I was a kid, I would go home and cut her lilacs, which was stealing from neighbors' lilac trees, but I don't know. Did I think that was a problem? Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, I brought her lilacs. I was rewarded, so it was good. So when she passed away, we planted this lilac grove here that just looks like normal bushes all year, but for like 2 or 3 weeks, it's absolutely beautiful colors of lilacs. And then you can begin to see the terrible view of the Catskill Mountains. And you can see a lot of the landscaping effort has been to hide the deer fence. So we can also wrap around the garden a lot of ornamental trees, more bee balm, the roses. The roses come and go. This is sort of the end of their first show for the summer. And so the garden really does have phases. And I would say this is like peak early summer. There's a cookbook I love called 6 Seasons. And, there's typically there's 4 seasons, but in his book, and I also think in the garden, there's 6 seasons because there's early summer, midsummer, and late summer. And I think this is early summer here. So we're seeing these allium are starting. We're seeing like the bee balm are at peak, and they'll keep flowering all summer. The hydrangea will flower all summer. These irises are so spectacular. Irises and lilies are in the same family. It's confusing. These are lilies. These are allium as well. I think they're so fun. They just have a sense of humor. These are Glowmaster allium. They look very Dr. Seussian. They're early in. The peonies are done. Sedum do really well, which is sort of the succulent here. These are just came up today. Like every time you come up here, there's things coming and going. These are balloon flowers, which are so cool. You can see they are shaped like balloons. You can see all the bees coming to the bee balm yard. These roses will come back, but bugs be loving those roses. And I just added these pots this year for some structure. Then coming over here, I just got this bench, and it still has the tag on it. I mean, not the real tag. It was from this auction, this place in Connecticut. This husband and wife spent half of their year in France and half in Connecticut, and they have just amazing old garden items. And then they closed their shop and had an auction, and I had it on my calendar. And this is a 19th century Scottish bench, and I just think it's so beautiful in the auction. And then this is my friend Ben calls it my wagon wheel. And I always joke with my husband, we're going to renew our vows under here. And he's like, absolutely not. But it allows you to have climbing. And climbing things take a really long time. This is clematis, or as the British say, clematis. I love Monty Don. There's this show in the UK that's been on BBC for forever called Gardener's World. And it's very, very calming. And Monty Don just talks about his garden. And then they interview gardeners all over the UK. My husband calls it Xanax for bedtime. You watch them and they're like, today we're going to tour a clematis garden. And so this is clematis, as the British say. And we have 6 different kinds of clematis climbing, and they're doing quite well. They're just so beautiful. You can see this variety is here. This variety, they come and go all summer. This one sort of looks like It looks like a 60s bob or a wig. It's going, but more will come back. And you know, when you think of flower arrangements, I like to think of fillers, thrillers, and spillers, and so this is a really good filler. And then over here, you can see, well, you can see the wig coming out of the lion. So I've just been adding as I find antiques, when that was blooming, it looked like it was coming out of his head, which was cool. And then we have our climbing hydrangea over here. This will, you have to keep them off the house because they're very aggressive, but hopefully they bloom. We're still in June, so, and then this box is for herbs, and now we're gonna come over here to the pool patio, and I will show you that part of the outdoor space. So we'll walk from the crest, we call this the crescent garden, into the pool area. So the year before the pandemic, actually for years coming up here, friends would be like, this house would be way better with a pool. And we didn't have one. And a pool destroys everything. So this was a total mess, but we did the pool. And it has a waterfall edge. It's amazing to have a pool. And I really like the idea of the grass into the marble coping. So this is local marble as well. Into the same Najiki willows, into the terrible view. And then the patio, these pots are from a company called Bergs, and B-E-R-G-S. They're designed in Denmark and made in Italy. I just think they have the most beautiful pots, and I love choosing the structure and the construction of the flowers. And this year we did oranges and purples. And so Linda really talks about each pot having a focal point, and I love the concept of fillers, spillers, and thrillers, and then color theory. And another thing I learned from Linda about making a pot like this is thinking about leaf structure. So if you have like it's the same with interiors. If you're going to do if you're going to mix patterns, do a large scale pattern and a small scale pattern. So like this is a small scale. This is small scale, like this is more large scale, and you see how the colors and textures, or like the longer shape playing against the other shapes, or how this fern sort of plays in here. So we do focal points, fillers, fillers, and spillers, thinking about color and thinking about broadleafs and narrowleafs next to each other, scale. And here's some more. I had a lot of fun I knew I had a good like carts of flowers when people were trying to shop off my cart at the nursery. I was like, those are mine. Go find your own. These are super fun and cool and beautiful, and I'm so glad they flowered purple because I wasn't quite sure what the flower would look like when I got them in the spring. This is a magnolia, which is actually doing quite well. And then these are forget-me-nots. When my husband's cousin Priscilla, who was a total character from Southie Boston, passed away, she had organized her entire funeral, and part of it was everyone got a packet of forget-me-nots, and we actually originally planted them in there, but they've made their way here. So every year somehow Priscilla's forget-me-nots find their way into the garden somewhere. I just finished this. Like I said, I love upholstery, and I think it can make such a difference. These are just RH chairs we've had forever, but I just finished this, making these. I love a contrast piping, and I think they look so chic. This is a pillow with really old fabric that I found at this shop in the Lower East Side. A woman named Paula Rubenstein. She has a great shop of vintage fabrics, and this is a Schumacher stripe that is beautiful. These are not, I mean, it is sort of tricky here to have, because you have the fire, and then having drinks here, it's not the most conducive for food and having a fire, but it looks pretty. And then we have the outdoor speakers here for our party house. And then I just did these as well, which is sort of the inspo. Well, the inspo for this was Yves Saint Laurent's Rue Babylon in Paris. He has these gorgeous outdoor green upholstered chairs. And then there's also some Slim Aarons photos from Italy in the 60s and 70s. It has this gorgeous like white and green cabana stripes. And then here, this fabric is so pretty. It has the navy blue and green. And then, we having light and music here is really nice in the outside. And then made these as well, which have the blue with the same white stripe and sort of here you see like these are like, this is mixing cedar and these really utilitarian chairs that are from DWR, and made them my own with upholstery and accessories, I guess. But then you see these fun like old French urns on the pool, and more Berg's pots. Like they're just so beautiful. So now we're gonna go from this pool deck to the cutting garden. Join me. All right, so now we're gonna tour the cutting garden, which is 6 raised beds that originally it was all vegetables, and I would miss a week here and it would go absolutely crazy. And I can actually buy really great vegetables, but it's harder and more expensive to buy really great flowers. So this has become a mostly flower with some vegetables. You can see the lettuces here. These tomatoes, actually, this is the first year I've grown tomatoes from seed because I have a greenhouse. So started them as little seeds, started the basil as seed as well. And I like putting basil by the tomato because the flowering of the basil brings the pollinators to the tomatoes. That's all different kinds of basil. This is mint, which is a weed. It's also really great for arrangements because it lasts a long time. And these are just cosmos that I think are really great summer flowers. This is going to be a ton of zinnia of all different colors. One trick when you first plant the zinnia right before, right when they start same with zinnia and cosmos and dahlias even, you snip the middle from the top plant and they spread out. So, they're flowering a little late because I snipped them all, but they're going to be really wide and they'll produce twice as many flowers that way. These are just wild poppies that, just have grown quite well here. So we kept them. We have some other stuff coming in behind them. And then this was another poppy that made its way here, which is so beautiful. And these are all dahlias from tubers that each stake is a dahlia. So you don't water the dahlias until they come through the ground. But these are like weird, rare dahlias that I can't wait to see what they look like because this is my first year growing them. So let's go from the raised bed cutting garden up to the greenhouse. So this is the greenhouse, which is something I just put in last year. So it started as, let's have a greenhouse. And so I found this beautiful greenhouse that was mid-century. It was the style of the house. And I thought, we'll just lay a cement floor and we'll build a greenhouse. But nothing's ever that easy because the land was really slanted. So we needed to have a retaining wall. And so I decided to use local bluestone for the retaining wall, and I was really into French decor, especially French garden decor. So it is a mid-century structure with a lot of French decorative items and this path. So it's like a small walled garden here, and it gets really, really hot. That's why they call it a greenhouse. And so this is our lavender, which is the first year of the lavender, and it is thriving here. And then nasturtium, or the edible orange flower, again, purple and orange is such a nice combo. This was from that store that I mentioned. This is a faux bois, which means fake wood, like an old French bench, and it looks like fake wood. And this fountain is 19th century from Paris, and it just was like the right scale for this wall. And It's actually run by a garden pump. So we built like I said, this was supposed to be a really simple greenhouse, but it never is. And so this has just a pond pump. We built a concrete water storage beneath it, and the water goes into it and recirculates through. But it looks like when you go to like Italy or France and you just have the running water. Don't tell. And the thing about building walls like this is the snakes really love it. And I know they're just garter snakes, but I like it when I don't see them. So I don't see them today. Maybe we can get some wildlife footage, but none here. And these are 1940s French deco outdoor chairs. I love 1940s decor. I love 1940s French decor because it was like right before mass manufacturing. So you still have, like, they look very modern, but they also still look very old fashioned. I love the patina of them. I was so thrilled to find these. And then these are 3 ornamental apple trees and my solar lighting. So as we go into the greenhouse, you can't really have much in the greenhouse in the summer except succulents. And so I've been growing succulents. These are French cafe tables and lots of Berg's pots as well with a pencil cactus. I love this succulent tray. It's really, really warm in here. Look at this guy. This is another Berg's pot that I think is just so beautiful. And these cactus, I think cactuses are camp. These came mail order, and you just they came chopped and you just put them in the dirt and they thrive. And I think this is really fun. I love the feet of this column. I would guess this is like 1940s if I had to guess. I could totally be wrong. This is a pickling jar that is great for here. I love the scale of it. These are old, sort of more mid-century. I love how beat up and patinaed that is. These are old French, like I said, French cafe tables. More succulents. My dried hydrangeas from last year that were too pretty to throw away. And then lots of fans, because you can never have enough fans. Just something cool about this is these windows are tied to a thermostat. And when it gets past a certain temperature, which is always, they automatically open, which I thought was a really cool feature here. So let's get out of the greenhouse and we'll go back to the garden to cut some flowers to make an arrangement, and then we'll finish touring the house. Hey, lady. Alright, so what I normally do at this point is arrange them into similar colors. So like, technically you're supposed to like hydrate the flowers before you arrange them, which I did for some before that I have from arrangements from yesterday, but with these, because they really will drink a lot of water initially, and it's amazing when you grow flowers versus like buying them, how much longer they last. So I like to, so you want to clean the stems to make sure you don't want any dirt in the stems, or in the water, I mean. So I usually take out the bottom stems, and then these might fall over. Let's see, I'll put them in here. The heavier vase, that's good. And then these clematis will all go in there. Oh, there's another one of these guys. Then we'll do the clematis. The clematis and the geranium that I cut they're like peas. They like to hang on to things, so they're always trying to hold on to you and each other. I think when I'm in here, up here, I get into especially when I'm arranging flowers or walking around the garden or doing stuff outside, I'm in like what they call a flow state, which is your mind is clear. And I have the kind of mind that always likes to be doing something. And oftentimes that thing is work, but up here to be able to just, go into this flow state and do something I love. So I think having a home where I can do that is really important. And, when I talk to the clients I've worked with around figuring out how to have a nice home or a home that they love, back in when American interior design started, and I think it really sort of got big in the early 20th century, interior designers were hired. It was unreachable for most people, and a lot of their job was to teach young people, very wealthy young people, how to live, like how to live in a house, how to live as an adult. And I think a modern interpretation of that is an interior designer can help people live better. And I think one of the ways of like living a good life is having a home that works for you, and having a home that can, provide things like the ability to arrange flowers or living beautifully. And I think having flowers, whether they're from your garden or from a deli, having things that are alive in your house, like brings a home to life. Especially, like I love this house when we first get here from the city, there's no flowers usually, or flowers have died, and it just feels very, very different. And so, certainly home to me is having things alive. And it's not only flowers, but it's even like produce, growing vegetables, having just things that are alive here. So I think that's really important to me. All right, so the flowers are conditioning, and I really think the purple will look good with this orange old marble deco vase. And this faucet I love natural materials. It's unlacquered brass, and it's just so beautiful. It feels so good in your hand. It's the Henry faucet from Waterworks, and that has the beautiful detail there. I just love it. This is a pot from a ceramicist up here, Paula Greif, who makes the coolest ceramic pottery. And this was from an auction house up here called Stair. So the first thing I like to do is I want to create a base of structure. So one of the challenges is making sure everything stands up. And you can either use tape or a flower frog. I like to try to do it naturally, especially with a vase this shape. So one way to do that is to think about having like your the just leafy things first. So these are cherry, like pieces from a cherry tree, and I think that deep purple will look nice with the light purples. And then I have a little bit of privet, which is a bush that grows like a weed up here. So I'm gonna take these cherries, look at the height, maybe like a little lower than that. So I hold it up to how high I want it to be. The tip of that one is bugs, got it. That's the thing, when you buy stuff from the florist, generally bugs haven't eaten it, but we don't have that here. So I'll strip all the leaves, because you don't want leaves in the water because it makes it dirty. And then you always want to do a fresh cut for when you're putting it in. I like odd numbers. Like I think a trio looks nice to start. So pretty much that height, and maybe I'll change it, but see how I hold it to the counter height, put it in, and then I'll start to make a structure with the stem so I can arrange into it. So start there, and then the privet is really nice to have as a structure because it's a nice sturdy stem. Don't want the leaves in there, maybe about that high. I like this little detail there, so cut it that high. With things that are stemmy, it'll last longer if you sort of break open the stem so it gets more exposure to water, or like smash it, then peel. Really try to not get any leaves close to the bottom of the vase. It just looks better without it. So I should have cut those off. So That might be a little tall. That looks good. We could do one more piece of privet. Just take it from here. That would be good. All right, maybe a little bit more. Maybe some of this sedum that I got, it might be too short. So let's see if this one, that might be a little interesting to have. Is the color interesting? No, it doesn't work. So this, I might do a little more of that cherry and a little more privet. You can always take it out. It doesn't work. Take that. Sorry. This one looks better. All the flowers are from the garden, which isn't, you know, that's really the goal, to try all year round to have stuff to use. And you can get creative too with, you know, some of these are just shrubs, but they have interesting leaves. And so if you can work with any kind of flower, even in the winter, using evergreens and just trying to take it from the property. And then, so now we have sort of a nice base of, then maybe this would be a little interesting to have a different structure of leaf as well, because they're a little more exotic looking and they can pop up like that. And then we can put the flowers around them, a little shorter. And those are sort of on their own interesting. Do one more of those. Love the shape of those. You know, as I grew up and my mom always had flowers. She didn't really arrange flowers, but I just sort of self-taught, and I read, you know, different books and followed different YouTubers on learning to do flower arrangements. And it's just, I love it because it sort of incorporates all the skills of interior design, of color and scale. And it's, like I said, it has that flow state. But I've just trial and error and then lots of book reading. When I'm into something, I will go deep and I'll show you all my interior or my flower books, and just watching people and following Instagram of amazing florists. And you know, it's mostly trial and error, and lots of times they go bad and you just redo them, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's not like I'm selling them for a wedding or anything. We have the base of the colors here. Now we want to get some like focal points, and I really want it to focus on the clematis here, which I think are so amazing. So we have this really big guy and unruly guy. It might be the wrong size vase, but it has all these really cool things that might be really neat coming down the side, like sort of like that. So we're gonna have to clean out the extra ones, which is hard to do. But I always have like extra small containers that can use the like, and sometimes these end up being the best arrangements, like just so for the extras that are small, so you don't waste them. This guy, that might be a little too tall, shorten it one. The thing about flower arranging is spilling water. You have to not worry about it because it always happens. Let's see if that looks like coming out here. Oh, into the fire, perfect. Or up here. That looks really cool. See, all these guys are growing on each other. Come on. Let's get the leaves out of here. They grow so weirdly. So this would look good as sort of like going down the side over here. And then this one over here. It's really good to like turn, to like keep turning your, sometimes I do this on a Lazy Susan. The other thing that I think is important is to have something like weird. And I think these are sort of like weird and unexpected, but they're in the color. So just to have a different shape of something like a little strange and unexpected, like put this, cut it at an angle and then get that guy in there. This one has really nice height, but it's all in the color family. We have the clematis at the bottom. A little extras pot over here. And then I think we can use some more like pops of purple. So we'll use these. Oh, actually these still be. Will be amazing. Let's get the height of that right. It's beautiful. Let's see. Getting there. And now we have a really nice base that's like holding it down. So when I put any flower in, I can sort of go anywhere I want it to because we built that base really well with lots of different flowers. Maybe one more still bee, and then some of these over here. And then you don't want to go too far. So it's always that balance. Is it better with one less? And I think the tension of this hanging off the edge and almost touching will be really nice. Cut it. There we go. That did it. And then we'll put some of these in it. Some pops of purple, light purple. So this one actually turned out, so they don't always. I'm pretty happy with that. It's like Coco Chanel said, take one thing away, but I just won't go too far that I have to. So there it is. Should we put it in the middle of the table? Sister's joining us for this part of the tour. Sister is the newest member of our family. She's a 2-year-old min pin, which we joke, she's a Doberman in the dryer. We had a dog for a long time, and we didn't have a dog for 3 years, and our friend works in dog rescue and was like, she's the perfect dog, you have to have her. And we do, and she's a real sweetheart. She's named after Sister Parrish, which is a deep cut for interior design history nerds. And my husband is a theater professor, so his version is she's like a Tennessee Williams character, sister. So we made a mess in the kitchen, but I can show it to you. This is the kitchen, and because it's part of the main space, you know, I like kitchens that feel like part of the house, and it doesn't feel like totally separate from the house. And in an older house, I feel like it's nice to have a kitchen that doesn't feel like it's from like a, you know, a furniture show, like a kitchen showroom. This kitchen does really, I think, feel like the rest of the house. I really wanted a navy blue kitchen and finding the right navy blue. This was actually made by Mennonites locally at a wood shop. They did an absolutely amazing job. And this marble is from Vermont. It's called Danby marble. I love it. I love having a lamp in the kitchen, just because a kitchen shouldn't feel like a showroom. It's just like part of the rest of the house. And so I feel like that makes it feel more tied to the rest of the house. And because this is so open, it really is part of the overall living space. These lamps, or these lights, are also from Niche Modern, and I really like how they're slightly different, but they complement the ones over the dining chair. And having a big country sink is really, really nice here. The coolest feature of the kitchen, I think, was one time we got here and the appliances were installed, and the cabinetry was on top of it, and I called the architect and said, Leslie, I think we forgot to put the handle on the dishwasher. And she said, no, just knock on it. I said, what do you mean knock on it? She said, knock the dishwasher twice. So I did, and it opens, which is such a strange feature that I never asked for, but that is the dishwasher we got. So it has not broken yet, so that's a nice feature. And the refrigerator is built in, which I think is really nice, because now I'm on my cookbooks. I love this cookbook, 6 seasons, all the different seasons of the garden. I'm a huge Ottolenghi fan. I love Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which is such a great cookbook. Cook 90 is my friend David Tamarkin's cookbook that he wrote a lot of in this house. And then Alice Waters, icon. And then we have sort of the mirroring of it, which is the pantry, the very organized pantry. I think you can cook almost anything if I love just going to the grocery store without recipes and just getting whatever produce is there and whatever protein is there. And then if you have sort of a full pantry, you can make anything. And so I love cooking here. My husband likes to go out to eat at this one restaurant when we're up here. I love it too, Gaskin's. And they inspire me to cook, but otherwise I'm just very happy cooking every meal. Coming in here to the primary bedroom, I like for a room to have 1 or 2 main colors and then 2 more secondary colors, and you can really see here this Turkish rug leads the color story here, which is sort of black, red, black, brown, red, and cream. So there's a lot of red here. Bedside tables are these amazing mid-century 4-drawer bedside tables that I love. This is from Les Indiennes, which does Indian block print. So it's actually in Warren Street in Hudson, where they make amazing block print. And I love Ralph Lauren Home, so the pillows are from Ralph Lauren Home. And I glue gunned that trim on that. That's a Ralph Lauren Home fabric as well. This lamp is 1940s French deco, which is so fun. I love the feet, the deco feet. And we have our mid-century chair here, Italian, that's from 1980. Red, just really red oil painting on canvas. My husband's book, which in my photo shoots of the interiors I've worked on, I always have his book as well. And he jokes it's like the Hirschfeld Nina. So the artist Hirschfeld would always have his Nina, his daughter's name, hidden in his artwork. So Broadway Bodies is my Nina. This photo is our friend Julia, who is an amazing photographer, and she worked for years at Diner in Williamsburg, Andrew Tarlow's restaurant. We used to go to Diner and Marlowe and Sons all the time, and I just love her photos. And she just had a book of photography that has a lot of her wonderful photographs. And then this piece has traveled with me. This was actually in the office of my company. That is an apartment building in Buenos Aires. So it is hard to tell what it is, but it's a apartment building with the air conditioners, and you see, I love the how many stories are contained within each of those windows and how people have the air conditioning on different parts. So what home means to me is a place to express yourself, a place to have friends and family feel welcome and feel like they're having a I love hospitality, and I love cooking a meal for people, sharing my home with them, our home with them, a place that I don't know, it's a place to, I guess, give back to yourself, to recharge, and a place to also give and share with other people. Thank you for coming, Homeworthy.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.